Conduct in the City Council chambers. Rules of decorum for the public. Members of the audience shall not engage in disorderly or boisterous conduct, including the utterance of loud, threatening, or abusive language, clapping, whistling, stamping of feet, or other acts which disturb, disrupt, impede, or otherwise render the orderly conduct of the city meeting infeasible. A member of the audience engaging in any such conduct shall, at the discretion of the presiding officer or a majority of the city council, be subject to ejection from the meeting per Government Code Section 54954.3C. Removal from the council chambers. Any person who commits the following acts in respect to a meeting of the city shall be removed from the council chambers per Government Code Section 54954.3C. A, disorderly, contemptuous, or insolent behavior towards the city council or any member thereof, tending to interrupt the due and orderly course of said meeting. A breach of peace, boisterous conduct, or violent disturbance tending to interrupt the due and orderly course of said meeting. Disobedience of any lawful order from the mayor, which shall include an order to be seated or to refrain from addressing the city council, and any other unlawful interference with the due and orderly course of said meeting. All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Taft City Council Successor Agency Joint Regularly Scheduled Meeting for Tuesday, November the 15th, 2022. City of Taft Council meetings are being held in person with full capacity seating and are live streamed at www.youtube.com/user/City of Taft. Public comment can be made in person and also can be received per the following. Written comments may be dropped off in the drop box in front of City Hall. Comments may be emailed to the city clerk at cityclerk@cityoftaft.org. They may be made by phone to the city clerk's office at 661-763-1222. Public comments will be accepted up until 5 p.m. the day of the meeting, and all comments received will be read into the record. We're going to begin this evening's meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, led by myself, followed by an invocation from Greg Mudge. If you would all stand, please, and join us. Salute and pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you join me in prayer? Heavenly Father, as we come together tonight, we remember in this season we're thankful for so many things. And we're especially thankful for those in our community that have committed to serving the people of this town. We're thankful for those that have served and are stepping down tonight. We wish them well as they continue, and we're thankful for their service to this community for so long. We pray, Father, for those that are being sworn in tonight. We pray for your guidance and direction for them as they begin their terms to serve our community. Father, we ask that you'd be with each one tonight. Help them to make the decisions in the best interests of your people here in this community. Help us always to remember that we serve you and you alone. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you very much, sir. Madam Clerk, may we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Knorr.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Cryer.
Here.
Councilmember Bryant.
Here.
Councilmember Eveland.
Here.
And Councilmember Whiting.
Here.
All right, first item on this evening's agenda is the swearing in of Police Officer Brent Savage. I would ask that the chief come up and take care of that ceremony for us.
With pleasure, sir. You bet. Would you please?
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I
I, Brent Savage,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will
well
well and faithfully discharge
the
the duties upon which
I am about to enter. Thank you.
This is for you, sign it and hang it.
Traditional bloodletting ceremony.
Red wing, go jump in there.
Thank you.
Everything's just. I just want to say a few words about Brent. Mr. Savage came to us as a reserve. He worked over, I believe, at San Luis Obispo, and decided to come over here to the city of Taft. He has been a reserve officer for us for about a year, correct? 2 years. Where's time going? And he's done a great job. So when he came to me and decided that he wanted to come here full-time, no questions asked. He did a great job, and we're happy to have him. So now we have a new officer here, Brent Savage.
Excellent. All right. Did you want to address the council, Brent?
I just want to thank you guys for the opportunity to serve the city of Taft in this community. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you very much, sir. I will tell you that this council, as it is seated, has nothing but gratitude and respect for the team that you are becoming a part of. And you will have our support. Unlike so many misguided places throughout this country where they decided they didn't need the help, the safety, the support of a strong police force, and it's blowing up in their faces. We have not made that mistake, and we will not make that mistake. So thank you so much for being a part of our police force, of your team.
Thank you. I appreciate it, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, next up, item number 2, public hearing. General Plan Amendment and Zoning Ordinance Amendment for the Downtown Taft Specific Plan and amendments to the zoning regulations to accelerate housing development. Recommendation is, number 1, a PowerPoint given by the consultant. This is a 1,202-page document, and each page in the document is a PowerPoint. So, I'm just playing. I saw the panic in your face.
Might be a minute.
She did a heck of a job of consolidating, I'll tell you that.
Okay, Mark Staples, I'm sorry, sir, if you'd like to address the council here.
Thank you, Mayor Knorr. Unfortunately, I will not be giving you the presentation this evening. We do have a great consultant team with Rick Engineering, and Brooke Peterson is here and will be giving the presentation this evening on the project. And Brooke, take it away.
Thank you.
All right, thank
Everybody hear me okay? I think I turned myself on. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here tonight and to present to you your downtown specific plan. The project team, the consultant team at Rick Engineering, along with Mark, have worked hard over, I believe it's about a little bit over 18 months, to work as efficiently as possible to bring you what we're bringing to you tonight. So I'm going to kind of just step through and overview kind of the purpose of the plan, components of the plan. The project also included an amendment to your zoning ordinance. I'm going to step through that quickly and then want to leave plenty of time for questions and answers. So without further ado, the primary purpose, so the city did have an existing downtown specific plan. So why did we do a new one? Why did we update it? We needed to identify a better mix of housing. Some of the codes, some of the uses, some of the development standards in the existing plan just didn't provide enough flexibility to kind of adapt to the market changes and just to make it as flexible as needed by potential investment to come in. We wanted to find as many opportunities through the update to better promote economic development and try to incentivize that economic investment to come in. A key aspect of the plan, and really what allowed for the funding of it from the state, was to find ways to accelerate housing production. So we've provided as many opportunities for streamlining, and I'll walk through those, but as many opportunities for streamlining through both the specific plan and the zoning ordinance amendments to better accelerate housing production. And then just to take a look at some of the ways to improve the design and the development and just the experience in the downtown area, between transitions between commercial and office, transitions between commercial and residential, and then just to look at how we can improve some of the design and development standards. So really quick, as I mentioned, it's been about an 18+ month process. We had significant public outreach kind of throughout the process. We had so really at each of the key junctures. So at the outset, we did kind of a look at the existing kind of conditions of the downtown area. We did an opportunities and constraints analysis, and then brought that along with kind of a draft vision to the community at a workshop. We had a workshop then to present a series of land use alternatives and get comments and feedback on that. From there, we prepared kind of a preferred land use plan and did a workshop on that. And then more recently, when we brought the downtown plan to the Planning Commission on October 19th, we also had kind of a workshop time before the Planning Commission hearing to take any last minute comments on the actual draft specific plan. So they've been involved throughout the process. We also had a series of online surveys. We conducted some interviews, I believe, with a few of you, as well as some of the planning commissioners. So we really tried to have as much input from you and from the community into the process as possible. Just wanted to highlight, before we get into the plan, highlight just a few of the comments we've received from Planning Commission, kind of takeaways from that hearing. I think the primary one was just identifying that the plan we're about to present, or I'm about to present to you tonight, is not going to happen immediately. It's going to be really incremental over time as development projects are proposed. So even though, even some of the images I'm going to show what it would look like all built out, it's going to happen very slowly and incrementally. And as the plan is implemented, as that development potentially happens, there'll be coordination with school districts as well as some of the other infrastructure districts to make sure that all of the supporting services and infrastructure that is needed to make Taft a quality place as that development happens, all of that coordination will have to occur as the development comes in. The commission just endorsed the land uses and the product types and new housing product types that are promoted in the plan. Just acknowledging and recognizing that it provides for like a broader flexibility and broader range of housing types. And then just affirmed the outreach process that we've had throughout the development of the plan, recognizing that there was a lot of opportunity for feedback. So I'm going to just step through, as I mentioned, kind of the structure of the plan. There's an introduction to it that just kind of lays out the purpose and kind of orients the plan in terms of its relation to the other city documents, like the general plan, the zoning ordinance, and others. And then there is a vision and themes chapter. So I'm going to go through the vision in just a moment, but then there's also a series of themes, which really we felt like would better emphasize the priorities of the plan and the goals that it would achieve. And each of the each of the themes has then an associated goal and series of policies to go through it to support that. So here's the vision for the downtown plan. The vision is to see a dynamic mix of land uses, ensuring a healthy and balanced community that really celebrates the history and culture of the area, recognizing the history and culture of Taft and the significance of the downtown area to the city was just something we've heard very loud and clear throughout the process. Residential, commercial, and employment and recreational opportunities are then linked together through a series of safe streets, connected trails, recreational districts, and a range of housing options. So that is the vision set forth. So as I mentioned, there's a series of themes which we wanted to just really emphasize what the guiding principles of then the rest of the document are intended to implement and to achieve. a strong economy, creating a sustainable development throughout the downtown core, activating the community, providing opportunities for recreation and social interaction, and then just putting forth design guidelines and design standards that are going to really enhance and improve the character of the community. So the land use section is really sort of the meat and potatoes of the plan. It sets forth the land uses, which really identifies kind of the density, the amount, the intensity of development across the different uses that are allowed. It sets forth the design standards, which are the standards that dictate exactly how a building is sited on a site, what it needs to look like, components that it needs to include. The land uses designations provide a variety of residential densities, and I'm going to step through kind of what those look like, what the overall land use map looks like. And then the land use chapter also, we provided some visual kind of illustratives to show some concept of what the development could look like. So here are the land use designations proposed in the plan. I want to mainly point to three of them. The downtown core mixed use is a new proposed mixed use. The existing downtown plan had just one mixed use zone, so we've broken that into two. The downtown core, which is here in the darkest red in the middle, that's really meant to promote kind of a vertical mixed use. So that is residential or office over commercial retail at a higher residential density, so up to 40 dwelling units to an acre over commercial or retail, as I mentioned. And then surrounded by that orange is the downtown, is the downtown transition, which is really meant to promote more of a horizontal mixed use. So where that dark red in the middle is meant to really provide some density and intensity along the kind of central skeleton or central core of downtown, it's then, the land use plan then kind of promotes a transition to lower density mixed use surrounding it. And then further to the south along Supply Row is a medium density residential and a little pocket of commercial. To the east, kind of southeast of the downtown core is that kind of bright purple you see, is a mixed-use live work, which is intended to provide for employment or I should say residential over-employment. So really allowing, it kind of best caters to or best promotes kind of artisan, startup kind of industries or businesses, and it really is meant to promote workforce housing in proximity to employment. We've expanded just slightly the office medical around West Side, and then maintained a little bit of light industrial really at the kind of southeastern edge of downtown. You'll see there that bright green strip is your existing rails to trails, and we really tried to incorporate design principles and some concepts to enhance, to really sort of recognize the importance of rails to trails and to build on that in some different recreational and kind of open space opportunities. So I mentioned it includes the development standards. What I've done here is try to just show you some of the differences between the existing plan and the proposed plan. And I think the best way to do this is just to show what the floor area ratio, which has to do sort of with the Vulcan scale of what a building looks like. We've allowed for some increase in that, allowing for a little bit more density and intensity on a particular site. We've then, in terms of the lot area and lot width and in the setbacks, just allowed for smaller lots to be built on and then reduced setbacks in some places down to zero. And that's really to allow for bringing the building to the street, allow for smaller sites, kind of increasing the feasibility and the development opportunity on smaller parcels. Again, all intended to try and promote, provide greater opportunity for housing to be built. So as I mentioned, the plan includes some illustrative concepts. This is the example shown in the plan, and it's illustrative only just to help visualize what those land uses that I just talked through would look like if kind of this whole area was built out. So as you can see, there's buildings at 3 to 4 stories, really an emphasis of the rails to trails and really creating that as like a core recreational spine through kind of complementing downtown. And then, I don't have a pointer, I wish I did, but you see the trees that kind of go across, they cross rails to trails and go through downtown. We've really tried to, that's along Fifth Avenue, really tried to kind of take the existing small little paseo and carry that forward through downtown, creating just, again, some plaza, paseo opportunities throughout the downtown core. So here's just an example of what one of the product types proposed would look like. This is a townhome example. This is at the corner of 4th and essentially rails to trails. We've tried to provide for housing to be brought really to kind of front and kind of leverage the benefit and the opportunity that rails to trails is, offering kind of access straight onto rails to trails, creating that, basically allowing for that public amenity to really serve the new housing. Here's an example of a higher intensity multifamily and apartment complex. This is at the just south, kind of on Supply Row there, just opposite the transit center. Again, trying to take advantage of some existing assets in the downtown core, that transit center. An apartment complex such as this would bring density to kind of better use that transit center. And that transit center would serve a higher density residential development like this well. Chapter 4, the plan sets forth design guidelines. So whereas I kind of talked through the design standards, those are the elements that a project has to include and has to abide by in any development proposals. The design guidelines are not necessarily mandatory, but set forth a general intent and desire for what we would want to see happen. So in the design guidelines, there's guidelines on general design, just kind of how a building is situated, site design, how that is sited on a particular site or a parcel, how it's sited in relation to the street, where parking is located, etc. We've really tried to promote high quality design, and there are guidelines in there for that. And then the guidelines on building form and articulation are really meant to create visual interest, high quality building materials, interesting building form and articulation primarily between stories, etc. can really help enhance the community, enhance the feel of downtown, and just bring visual interest. There's guidelines, like I said, on building materials and colors, on frontage. So what does that building frontage look like from the street? How is that experienced from someone on the street? How is that building accessed to users on the street? Parking site design. We include some guidelines on what a parking lot, how that should be designed in relation to a building, in relation to what we call the public realm. The public realm is that space kind of between the building frontage and the public right-of-way. And it's really the main area that you as a user of downtown as you walk along the street would be experiencing. So parking site design really covers things like how to prioritize pedestrian safety through a parking lot, where access to that parking lot in relation to a building should be, and components like that. There's guidelines on lighting. Lighting can help increase safety, really help kind of promote orientation when you're in a place. And it can also be used to kind of help brand a place. So lighting that recognizes your historical character, for example, can really help kind of brand and bring character to the downtown. There's a lot of policies on streetscape and public realm. As I mentioned, public realm is that area between the street and the roadway. And so there's a lot of guidelines in there to really try and promote vibrancy and what we call activation. So really trying to create an environment that's attractive, that feels safe, that feels interesting, that really will draw people to be and use downtown. We really are trying to emphasize greater opportunities for open space. Open space allows for community interaction, social interaction, and people are going to be more likely to come to downtown and want to be here if there's opportunities for that. A very high priority of the plan is just to increase pedestrian safety and just improve the overall pedestrian experience, whether that be safety or attractiveness or ease of getting around, ease of being oriented to downtown, things like that. And then lastly, materials and hardscape and furnishing. Furnishings are things like street benches, water fountains, public art, things like that. Those can all be used to just create a more inviting place. Signage is very important. We've included, really tried to reflect the citywide and the downtown wayfinding designs that have been developed previous to our efforts. But signage is really an important opportunity to take advantage of, both to bring people in as well as once they're in the downtown, just to orient them and help them get around. And it also can help the design of that signage really further kind of brands and creates a sense of place for Taft's downtown. So corresponding to land uses and what development might look like, it's important to have a supporting roadway structure. So most of downtown is what we would call local streets. And then there's a couple, Sixth, and there's a couple collector streets, 6th and 2nd, where we've proposed some pedestrian improvements. This is again just illustrative, but we've proposed strategies to really try to increase bike safety, pedestrian safety, and just encourage that kind of a use in downtown, which is just create the kind of activation within the downtown area. As I mentioned, we've tried to increase the opportunities and just better promote opportunities for open space and social interaction. So one of those strategies is we've proposed a concept for 5th Street, as I mentioned, where we build kind of from the existing, I think it's about 1 or so blocks of paseo from the rails to trails at 5th Street, and continue that all the way to Kern, and thereby providing both the rails to trails as well as the kind of perpendicular to that opportunity for open space. We've proposed a couple of other ideas, new ideas, introducing new things such as creating a pop-up opportunity for pop-up containers at the B of A property, and then just some other opportunities for park areas. These are the kinds of parks and open space we want to promote. The plan doesn't set forth exactly where these have to happen, but it encourages them to be used. And future development, this prioritizing the inclusion of parks and open space in future development is certainly something emphasized in the plan. Amenities, this is kind of where I get at some of the street furnishing, but amenities such as seating areas, play areas, and dog, all of these kind of amenities are just aspects that as development comes in and is encouraged to be included, would just greatly enhance the downtown area and is just going to be very much encouraged and evaluated as development proposals come in. As I mentioned, as development occurs, it's really important to have the supporting infrastructure, whether that's schools, water, stormwater, drainage. It's important to have infrastructure, make sure that that infrastructure, those facilities are provided at the same level or commensurate as future development is proposed. So the plan proposes or shows what those infrastructure networks and systems need to look like. And last but not least, the last chapter is the implementation chapter. The implementation chapter addresses environmental review. We did, and I'm going to go through it in just a little bit more detail, but there was a mitigated negative declaration supporting both the zoning ordinance and the specific plan. So the chapter addresses that. And then it talks through how future development is supposed to be processed in terms of development entitlements, construction and development permits, how discretionary reviews, how future development complies with the specific plan requirements and design standards, etc. What happens if there's slight differences to that, and it just lays forward that basically the review process for those different types of development. And then there is in there an implementation strategy, which essentially sets forth actions according to the themes that would be needed to further implement the specific plan. And it identifies who would do that in terms of responsibility. And for the public infrastructure improvements, identifies costs. I'm going to move on then to the zoning ordinance amendments really quickly. Overall changes can be simplified down to implementing the downtown specific plan, so incorporating those new zones that I've identified as well as the design standards. It also proposes some streamlining. As I mentioned, sort of the core purpose of the project at the front end was to find ways to streamline future projects, and so we've tried to identify opportunities for that in the zoning ordinance. And then there was a number of updates just needed to comply with state law changes that have occurred. So I'm going to just focus in on Chapter 2. One of the ways that we have proposed to better streamline development is to provide a new permit called a director's permit, which allows for administrative review by the planning director for certain kinds of development. And kind of key to that is the director could administratively review and approve development that conforms and complies with the objective design standards. So the specific plan and then chapters 4 and 5 propose objective design standards for residential and commercial development. So should the development proposal be in compliant with that, the director could approve that. Chapter 4, as I mentioned, includes the addition of objective design standards. And then the other key change is compliant with state law or per state law. We've added additional regulations allowing ADUs or accessory dwelling units to be allowed in all zones. Chapter 5, again, is the inclusion of new objective design standards for commercial uses, recognizing the addition of the director's permit as an approval type, and then, adding a new multifamily density for those new mixed-use zones, consistent with the new specific plan. And then last but not least, Chapter 14, we made some small revisions to the parking regulations, primarily to reduce parking requirements for certain types of uses. As I mentioned, there was a mitigated negative declaration process to evaluate the potential environmental impacts of both the zoning ordinance and the specific plan. That was issued for public review just in the tribal consultation was conducted. Tribal consultation is required for any proposed project such as this. We got no responses to that. And then the mitigated negative declaration was issued for public review through the end of July through August. And we got one comment on that from the Department of Toxic Substances, which was pretty much just a formulaic letter requiring determining how we process future development. And I think that's it. With that, open it up for questions.
All right, gentlemen, I will open the dais for questions. Any questions? That was a great deal of information, and we know this has been ongoing, total of 19 months of hard work and outreach invested in this, so it's very comprehensive. But like I say, whomever would like to ask any questions, feel free to jump out there.
So, Mr. Mayor, I don't have any questions, but I do have a comment if you don't mind.
Yes, sir, go right ahead.
You know, I appreciate you being here first and foremost to present to us tonight. I know on behalf of your firm and of course work that you've done, this is a culmination, especially in 20-25 slides, to take 1,200 pages plus of a plan and consolidate. Kudos, good job. I do also appreciate you kind of giving the timeline because it made me feel a lot better. And I'll tell you why. I've been on the council now almost 8 years. And as I was kind of doing some mental math while I was sitting here thinking, okay, well, how long have we been doing this? So I jotted down a note. Well, we've been working on this plan for about 1.5 years if I had to ballpark it. And you said, oh, we're right about 18 months. So I'm like, yes, I got it right. But really, we've been talking about it for about 3 to 4 years. At least conceptually, we need a downtown specific plan update. But even in the last 8 years, I think right after I was elected the first time, the council was fortunate enough to create an economic development ad hoc committee. And it had come up in that process as well. So as long as it's taken, I hate to say it's been roughly 8 years, but we're making progress. But just like any dream or any goal, it's not if it doesn't have a plan, it's just a dream, right? And this is a culmination of a lot of that work. I do really appreciate the fact that you noted a couple things. First and foremost, that this is a plan, it's a roadmap, but it's not something that says, okay, tomorrow we're going to have hundreds and thousands of different housing dwelling units and businesses coming to our downtown. It is the groundwork for that to happen in due time. And I look forward to seeing that through as long as I'm on the council and hopefully as long as I'm a citizen here of the city of Taft. So again, it's hopefully the start to a dream being realized in the not too distant future, although I will not hold my breath. I'll just happily breathe and see it through. But it's going to take time and it's going to take investment, and not just on behalf of the city of Taft. It definitely will. But the people in the community and the people who view this community as an investment opportunity and a way to make money here and also support livelihoods of folks who live here. And so I look forward to supporting this as a member of the city council and as a citizen, and I hope all my fellow citizens do too. Thank you.
All right. Anybody want to follow that?
Sure.
Okay. Councilman Whiting.
Yeah, this, I believe, will be my third
development plan. That the last two were as police chief or before lieutenant. And this one now as a sitting city council member. And I got to tell you, this is probably the most comprehensive plan I've seen to date. The only thing that I have just a question about would be slightly less parking for certain types of uses in the downtown area. A lot of those people that want to park right in front of the business and go in and shop might have a real problem going 2 blocks away for a parking structure to get to their eyeglass appointment, when they can right now just park right in front. So that's my only concern with that. But the rest of this plan looks very well thought out, very hardly, a lot of hard work went into this, and we appreciate that very much.
Mayor Pro Tem Cryer, did you want to address?
I do. Thank you, Mayor.
All right.
It's a good vision. It's a long time coming. The question I have, some of the questions, do you get a lot of public participation in all the different workout meetings and stuff?
We would have always loved to get more. We had a somewhat low turnout for the first workshop. The first workshop was really still in the middle of, really in the middle of COVID, so it was virtual. I think we had 7 for that workshop. The land use alternative workshops, I would say, was our most successful. I'm not going to have the numbers, it was somewhere around 15 or so. And we got enough participation to break up into tables, gather around the maps, ask a lot of questions, allow really for a lot of input on some of the nitty-gritty details of things. That was definitely our most successful. The third workshop, going over the plan, had about the slightly less turnout than the second one. And then last month before the Planning Commission hearing, we just had a few, but we did our very best. I think we were advertising on Sit and Sip all the time. We used as many mailing lists at Chamber as much as we could to get the word out. I know Mark worked very hard, so we did our best.
Thank you on that. Looking at the renditions and everything, looks beautiful. Well, how it's laid out and the walking paths and how you set the stores on the bottom and the units on top for living apartments and stuff. Now you have some multi-family buildings there. How many of those you anticipate having, or that's a matter of supply and demand, or how's that going to work?
It is a matter of supply and demand. I don't have the number of total units in front of me, but I could go over the densities if that kind of helps.
That'd be great.
So my goodness, let me just go back to the map really quick. Almost there. So in the downtown core, which is kind of the darkest red, that would allow for up to 40 dwelling units to an acre. That really is a kind of higher density apartment type product type. In what we're calling the downtown transition zone, that would allow for kind of 15 to 30, which is just slightly lower, allow both for apartments as well as support sort of townhome type development. It's a similar density proposed for the medium density residential, which is that kind of yellow below Supply Row. Do you have the dwelling unit number? I should know that, my apologies.
Well, the dwelling unit number that I'm sure a lot of folks have seen the numbers on, it takes, keep in mind, it took the entirety of this land area, did the math at the maximum possible density ratio, and we had to do that to properly conduct the CEQA analysis. It's what is that max possible development moment for the area, and that's where all the transportation studies you saw in the staff report and all that. So the majority of what we'll see will definitely be obviously the vacant land along rails to trails, along Supply Row in Maine, and then infill along Kern North and Center. So you'll probably see, probably at highest about 50% of that. I think it was a 3,100 dwelling unit count, which actually the reshuffling of densities here produced 300 more possible units than the prior zone that was here before. So of that 3,100, maybe upwards of 1,500 is probably what we would see at most, because there'll still be the desire for some sort of offsetting commercial use. If we get a second hotel like Best Western or something like that, that would take some land away from the max possible residential development that we could get out of this plan.
The other question, piggyback on that, could those be all apartments, or will there be some that will be condominiums where you can purchase?
That will be up to the developer, and we'll be promoting both to be developed on the multifamily side of things. We've heard a lot of folks who are looking for those kind of options for purchase, and that's why with the two sample graphics we provided, there was an example condo development at 4th and Supply Row, the northwest corner, and then the property due south of the transit center along Supply Row was used as the apartment example during the workshops, and we got positive feedback on both.
Yeah, the plan doesn't really dictate for sale versus rent. It really just focuses on product types. So for example, that apartment could be either built as an apartment according to kind of apartment standards, or it could be condominium.
Okay.
And may I add just one thing? I meant to include this in the body of my presentation, but Appendix A of the specific plan is what we call pro forma analysis. So we actually used our in-house economists together with the architect Diego Velasco with City Thinkers, who was on our team, to take those development standards in the land uses and test them to determine the economic viability of them. And we actually, we ran it once so Diego created site designs. We tested that against, market trends, costs, what we could expect, what types of development we would expect, what the land value would be, and then even actually made revisions to that to further refine the development standards in order to be as responsive to market demands and prices, essentially, to be as viable to attract future development as possible. So just getting at your question of for rent versus for sale, we looked at both of those options to evaluate which would be more viable for a developer.
Now, do we have a certain percentage for low income?
The plan includes some incentives for affordable housing. There's no requirement in there for affordable housing, but there is density bonus incentives as well as streamlining in the processing of future development, depending on whether affordable housing is proposed.
Okay, you mentioned something about, water fountains. Are those for decoration or?
That's just an example of an amenity that could be provided. Those are intended to be promoted more in like that public realm, along the sidewalk, within the public open spaces, just as an amenity for a user or a community member that's there.
But you're not referring to drinking fountains, that's kind of obsolete nowadays.
It's true. They are still used in public areas as just a way to essentially brand and create kind of interest. But yes, they're to some degree obsolete.
Okay, but thank you for the great report and everything, getting back to the council and sharing the visions. And also the citizens out there did participate in those workshops. Your idea is coming to fruition. Well, it's going to come out in our city, and our city is changing, and it's changing for the better. It's slow, but it's changing, so just bear with us. Thank you.
And we're excited to help make that happen.
All right, Councilman Evelyn, did you have any questions?
I, potentially for Mark, but up to this point with everything I talked to you prior to the meeting about that. If you could explain the grant process versus where we're actually at, so we know the minimal hit that's going with the general fund versus what this is actually costing.
So yeah, I included in the staff report as quick a summary as I could the multi-year journey we've been on here. And it began with the State Housing and Community Development Office providing the planning grants program. And for the size of our city, that provided us $160,000 to go towards this project. And then less than a year after that, the state released a what they called Local Early Action Planning Grant Program, and that was another $60,000 based on the size of our city. So that gave us that initial $225,000 to start this process that we laid out for the various consulting firms to help us with this project. And after we had selected Rick Engineering, KernCog received similar monies through their process, and that was a Regional Early Action Planning Grant. That added another 10,000, which got us to the 235. And with everything into the project and other costs involved, I believe the budget is around 268,000. So as we were discussing, the general fund contribution to this is about $33,000.
And thank you. I know, the city staff, as well as the planning commission, you guys aggressively seek those out when they're available. And I know our general fund appreciates it very much. So I just want to thank you as well, Mark. Thank you for your presentation. Beautiful presentation. Thank you too. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Thank you all very much. It's interesting, and you look at some of the other state laws that have been passed, and they're making it easier and easier to make smaller dwelling units so that you get multiple peoples in a smaller space. So California's running out of space. But one of the great ironies of these policies, because we often hear about affordable housing, we need more affordable housing, is every time something comes out of state government, it gets more expensive to do anything in the state of California. And that includes building or continuing business in any way. So that's one of our great conflicts, is we have visions in the state of California, we recognize needs in the state of California, and then we continue to pass legislation that is contrary to the need and the desire. When it's all said and done, it's going to be based on the availability of money, and you're going to have to borrow money. Developers have to borrow money, and they have to build these things. And then if they're townhouses or condos, people have to be able to afford to borrow money to buy these places. So it will take time. These things take time, and things change. So the exact number is a possible concept based on current laws, and it's very attractive. It's very comprehensive. It really is indeed. And let your imagination run wild. But thank you very much for all the hard work that everybody put into this. It has been going on for quite some time. And a quality product like this does not take place overnight, and we know that. So thank you for your help, Mark. Thank you for your leadership in this, and we really appreciate it. Thanks for the presentation.
Thank you.
All right, item number 2 is to conduct a public hearing, and we're going to do just that. So I'm going to open said public hearing. Anybody wishing to comment on this, please step forward. All right, seeing nobody right now, guess what? Somebody sent us a comment, a question. So this will become part of the record. I'm going to read this to you. This is coming to us from Guy Lingo. And Guy Lingo says, "Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Guy Lingo. My comment has to do with the downtown specific plan. I know that what you are covering tonight is just the plan and that many of the specifics will come later. I discussed my thoughts at the community meetings, and since it is not reflected on the maps enclosed with the plan, I just wanted to restate my thoughts here so that it would be on your minds as well. We have a wonderful replica of Sutter's Fort that is used for many different things. We also now have a wonderful transportation and meeting building that resembles a depot. What I would like to see is a replica of our depot on or near the site that it sat for nearly 50 years. I think it would add to the historic aspect of Taft. It could also be used for many different venues, from small businesses to a restaurant and office space. I also want to express that I think it would be a shame to move the old Wells Fargo Express building, also known as the Railway Express Company or the Antique Shop. It is one of the oldest, if not the oldest, buildings in Taft. It is also the last surviving evidence of the railroad. If not for the railroad, Taft probably would not have been here. It is also one of the last surviving Wells Fargo Express Company buildings in the country. I thank you for listening to what I think would be good for the history and historic value of our town. Signed, Guy Lingo. So Guy, thank you very much for your input and your statements. I can see Mark is shaking his head. I would have to guess Guy has attended these things and perhaps brought these matters before you in the past, so I'm sure they've been considered. So, all right. Thank you, Guy. Appreciate your input. As there are no more comments, I'm going to close the public hearing. And at this time, I would entertain a motion to adopt an ordinance entitled an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Taft. Are we doing good? Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, I had to take a break because when our city clerk is looking at you, she has these eyes and they're full of knowledge. And if you look at her eyes and you're not sure that you're doing the right thing, you stop. So thank you for telling me. Okay, so I'm going to get back into this. At this time, I entertain a motion to adopt an ordinance entitled an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Taft approving zoning ordinance amendment number 2021-05, an amendment of chapters 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 11, 12, and 14 of Title VI of the Taft Municipal Code to accelerate housing production in the City of Taft for first reading by title only and reading of such be waived.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion?
No, sir, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, any additional discussion? None?
All
Councilman?
was said.
All right, I have a motion and a second. May we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Cryer,
Yes.
Councilmember Bryant,
Yes.
Councilmember Eveland,
Yes.
Councilmember Whiting,
Yes.
and Mayor Noor.
Yes, thank you very much. That passes on a 5-0 vote. Next is item number 4, a motion to adopt a resolution entitled a resolution of the City Council of the City of Taft approving general plan amendment number 2021-05 to adopt the downtown Taft specific plan to accelerate housing production in the City of Taft.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and 2 seconds. Any additional discussion regarding this, gentlemen?
None, sir.
None. All right. We have a motion, Madam Clerk, and a second. May we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Cryer,
Yes.
Councilmember Bryant,
Yes.
Councilmember Eveland,
Yes.
Councilmember Whiting,
Yes.
and Mayor Noor.
Yes, and that too passes on a 5-0 vote. Vote of confidence for your work product and all your hard work. Thank you very much. Thank you. Next up, item number 3, citizens request public comments. Comments are to be received as stated in the above policy. This is the time and place for the general public to address the city council on matters within its jurisdiction. State law prohibits the council from addressing any issue not previously included on the agenda. Council may receive comment and set the matter for a subsequent meeting. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes. I have somebody who wishes to address the council, and that would be Sherry Reitmer from the Labors of the Harvest. Sherry, please step forward.
Really quick, come on, step up.
This is just a guess.
I know.
This is a guess. But is everybody wearing a bright purple shirt out there here with you?
Yes.
Oh, that was a great guess. All right, thank you very much. By all means.
Well, thank you, everyone. So I just want to say I'm so proud of this group because they are part of our ETR training program, and most of them are graduating this next Wednesday. Not tomorrow, but next Wednesday, with 6 certifications, and they will be moving on to full-time employment. And I am just so proud. I just wanted to show them off, and I'm trying not to cry because I love them all. We have another cohort group, and so these are the flyers that you have in front of you. But they've been extraordinary. I can't believe that we went from PB&J's sandwiches 6 years ago, and now we're feeding this group and a bunch of others because we've got another 15, 20 still at Labors of the Harvest, feeding 11,000 people in Kern County with this group here. And it's amazing. And we gather and glean every single day. Well, every single day we gather and glean food and redistribute all that food that would have been thrown away. SB 1383 has really helped us out with that. But we gather over 100,000 pounds of food, rescuing it and redistributing that out into especially Taft and then surrounding rural areas as well too. So I just wanted to share a couple of stories just briefly, just 1 or 2 minutes, because really I am so proud of this group. And so the first person I'm going to, this is Tina. She's our number 1, and she's going to just share just like a minute or
Okay.
whatever.
Just like a minute, okay. When I first came to Sherry, I was living under the bridge over by the recycling plant. And,
Don't start.
I can't. She kind of said, want to eat? And I said, okay. And I've been there ever since. And it's almost 6 years.
And now you have.
I have a house, I have a bank account, I have my driver's license, and a paid job, and a lot of certifications now. And I could move to any job that I would like to go to, and I would prefer to stay there, because I do like what I do. I love it. I love to give, and that's one of our philosophies. So, thank you very much.
Sounds like along the way you also got self-esteem, something very important. Congratulations.
That's what I've lost.
I'm going to say, each one of them have risen up without the system. We believe that, you know, everything is within you. And so at your pace, you rise up. We just gave them the opportunity to be able to do that and cheerlead them. This is Toots. Her
Or
name is
Kathy.
But we call her Toots.
My husband was from Manhattan, so I got the nickname. I was living behind F Street in the ditch in a tent with my boyfriend because my mom passed away, so we ended up there. And he said, let's go have dinner at the church, and I thought, what? When does that happen? I never heard of it. So we ended up at the church at Sharon, and that's where I met Sherry and Tina, and they're the ones who kind of, you know, give me the gentle shove to go and get them, and the housing authority helped me get a house. So I ended up in a house. So I'm finally not homeless anymore. And I've been volunteering with them pretty much ever since I've seen you guys. She's like my mother, or she's like my best friend. I go to her for everything. Don't I?
She's also in the paid training program.
Yes, I am.
Everybody's getting $15 an hour now.
And
they all have their certifications, forklift,
Mm-hmm.
food handlers permits. They're getting their passport for oil fields tomorrow. And it's just been extraordinary to see this group just rise up. And I just want to say thank you, Taft, for this opportunity, really, because now we have people contributing to our community in a big, big way.
And we get to give away food.
So, yes.
Thank you.
We have a meal that we're serving next Wednesday to our whole entire community, free. It's a dinner, sit down. And then we also, last year, our Taft community, because they donated to Albertsons. So last year we fed over 800 families throughout the holiday season, turkeys, hams, and tamale fixings. So next Tuesday, we have those free turkeys. We have over 200. And then the last thing I want to say is we don't operate on, we really don't get that much money. We do have some grants to pay for them, but no operating costs. I still volunteer. And so if you could just let people know that even if they just share $5, it would just really help us out a lot. But we couldn't do it without you, and I don't know if anybody else had anything, but we need to wrap it up.
If I, can I squeeze here? I want to just squeeze a minute. Mayor Noyer, the councilman, I have the awesome opportunity to volunteer time and work on life skills and employment skills with these folks. And what I'd like to highlight is this is an organization that is training our community members up to have these jobs, that are going to be able to run these businesses of all these great plans that we're doing. I don't want to move. I don't want to move. I've been in Taft for a very, very long time. But I think what it's going to take to attract our community members to stay here, to stay in our town, our children. My baby's about to graduate next year. I need him to come back to Taft. Is we need to have a safe community. We need to have jobs available for our folks. I've worked in the systems. I am a social worker. I can tell you most of the systems don't work. This system is working. It's great to be able to call Tina up and say, hey, I've got a family here that is really in need of boots and food and something to get them working. And you know what? Within 15 minutes, Tina's down at LOP and she's got that handled. It's an opportunity for somebody that doesn't want to be underneath the bridge anymore, that doesn't want the alternative, which is probably going to be jail or some other place, to come and get those job skills, to come and to grow that. So if we could just as a community take the time to invest in our own community. Mayor Noor, you're speaking my language when you say, when we take those tax dollars, it creates a solution for a moment. But then we're tied to that program, and we're not able to do these great things of holding people accountable. And if you show up and you're not dressed appropriately, what happens? You go home. If you show up and you're under the influence, you go home. We don't have to write them up 3 times and wait for, a meeting from the system to the system. It's here, it's now, get busy, let's do this. There's a big aspect of free food, but I think the bigger aspect is giving these folks an opportunity to have those skills to work here in our town. Thank you.
All right, all very well said. Thank you all for taking the time to come visit with us this evening. It's a pleasure to see you. I love your bright purple, and hope you have a wonderful holiday. And thank you for all the blessings. All right, good evening. Thank you very much, ladies. Okay, next up, item number 4, council statements, non-action. Councilman Evelyn, I'll begin with you, sir.
Took plenty of time last meeting, Mr. Mayor. I think I will stop myself from any comments tonight.
Okay, all right, Councilman Bryan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to make up for Mr. Evelyn here, as usual. So I don't have to pull it off the consent calendar later. I just wanted to comment on item number 14 on the consent calendar. I know a lot of times folks around town are really concerned and really not sure why we're not investing in streets, why we're not investing in roads, or maybe even alleyways. And if you just take a look at that item, we're spending close to $400,000 to do what, if I'm ballparking it, 3-4 city blocks of road. That should tell you everything you need to know as to the uphill battle we fight every day just to keep things operable in the city of Taft. Our city manager is working his tail off, and our public works folks are working their tails off trying to stretch every dollar into 2. And they do a heck of a job. They're leveraging grant money wherever we can. But if you could just take a look at that and realize we're doing 3-4 city blocks for just shy of $500,000. There's a reason why we can't do more. We would love to have the most beautifully paved streets of gold in the city of Taft, and that's our goal one day. We're just going to have to get there in very small bites, assuming we have to keep fighting the same uphill battle. I wanted to say specifically to Mark, because I left this out of my comment on this specific plan, but our planning commissioners, Mark, city staff, and even the folks, as Orchel mentioned, who from the community participated in the development of that plan. Thank you. Again, it's a long time coming. It's definitely been needed. The update is going to be beneficial, hopefully more fruitful than some of the past plans. And that's going to be my commitment to you all, is that will be something we pursue, at least from my perspective. But thank you guys for all the time and effort, Mark, for being creative in how we finance that, to the rest of the council and the community for supporting that. Even if it is a 10% clip of the total cost, it's still 10%. But great job. Thank you guys very much. We had a number of staff who ultimately had a hand in recognizing our veterans at the ceremony on Friday. So if that was one of you out there at City Hall, or even the mayor, I know that's been kind of a pet project of yours, we appreciate that. I know I do as a citizen of this country. I know, and I hope that our veterans all appreciate that. It was one of the most well-attended ceremonies I'd seen in a long time around here. That was a heck of a thing. It was wonderful to sit back, to see those folks being thanked. I know Councilman Whiting did a great job emceeing the event. I'm sure he was filled with pride, not only as a council member, but as a veteran himself, to be able to shake the hands of men who'd also served either alongside him or in other branches. But to see the joy in those men's heart and those women's heart, and know that they're thankful for that simple thank you, meant a lot to me, and I look forward to that being something we celebrate year after year after year. I did want to say happy Thanksgiving to everybody. I know that's next week, which is amazing. It seems like November just started. But to all the folks out there in the city of Taft, especially those who work for the city of Taft, thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Just for the note, it is state policy that makes it so expensive to pave a mile of road in the state of California. The materials themselves can be utilized in practically any other state to pave almost 4 times as much. So here again, policy impacts every aspect of life and your ability to provide, whether you're government in the state of California or you're the head of a household. So, all right. Councilman Whiting, you're up, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to reiterate for last Friday, the 11th, when we had the Veterans Day here. And I was privileged and honored to be the Master of Ceremonies. I just want to reiterate one of the things that I mentioned there, and that is, when you see a veteran, a lot of people say, thank you for your service. I think we should take it just another quick step farther and just say, and we will never forget. I think that's really important. Just saying thank you is not really enough. We don't speak Japanese, we don't speak German, we don't speak Russian because of those people, because of our people, because of our families who support those people. We call them veterans. Those are our volunteers. They step up to the pump, and they did the service to our country, not knowing exactly where they might end up at in any particular conflict in any given year. And they made sure that we all stayed safe here in our homes. So we can't possibly thank them enough. So if you see a veteran, don't just say thank you for your service, also tell them that you will not forget. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, and thank you for emceeing that event. Councilman, that was a critical component, and you were the right man for the job. And thank you for your service, sir, in the United States Air Force.
Thank you. I was very honored.
Mayor Pro Tem Cryer.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to add a few words to our guests here, testify about their life stories and stuff and the things that they do. And I've been kind of following them all along, what they've been doing, and they've come a long ways. From off the streets to having their own homes, getting their GED, and learning different jobs and stuff that they're doing. To me, that's commendable. It's you that did it. It wasn't us or Sharon. You took the initiative to take it on to make your change in your life, and it's very important that you do and stay with it. When things look bad, think of the positives, because there's always going to be some negatives out there. And I just want to say that. And I also know that was it last week, Sherry, that you were in LA giving a presentation about what you've been doing here in Kern County with your program.
Yes, with the food recovery, the Los Angeles Greater.
Yeah, I know you do a lot with that 1364, and also the Board of Providers' ears. And I also, being sitting on the Solid Waste Management Board, that you got their ears too, working on it, trying to make things work in your group to get food in different stores and everything. It's a good thing that we're in some troubling times right now. It's not because of lack of jobs, well, maybe so. It's all government created in our on the federal side and mainly on the state side. It's creating a lot of hardships to a lot of our citizens and stuff. For one time, we were very comfortable where we lived and what we had. Now we're losing everything. Things get more expensive. People, interest rates going home on our homes and the credit card and the fuel. It's getting very, very hard to make a living. And people are starting to go out in the streets. Not just because of the homeless deal, it's because it's forced to do it. And but I just want to thank you for the work that you've done and all that. And thank you. And all you ladies out there, thank you. What I want to bring up is, we had elections just recently we had. I thought I was getting a note. I thought I was in trouble there. But we had election and everything. What it is. Card's been dealt. You got Generation Z, I guess they call it, or something. The 19-year-olds through the 23 or 24 voted how they did, not realizing they're going to be ending up paying for the bill. They created their own mess. Everything they vote for, the money's not there free. And so at some time or another, but the scary part is, knowing what I have in the past in Eastern Europe, behind the Iron Curtain, seeing what I've experienced over there, and seeing the parallels here, the ones that scare me the most. It only takes 10% of the population to create a revolution. But they don't get what they want, and they can cause hell in this country here if they want. And that's, to me, the scary part of it. But persevere, do good, and we'll make it. On the inflation and stuff, it goes hand in hand with petroleum. Two things: one, printing of money causes inflation, plus the high cost of petroleum, our energy, that turns spurs the economic engine of our industry. When energy goes up, costs, everything from pins to Coca-Cola, Pepsi right here, and everything you wear, all cost goes up. So we're all going to pay for it. And I feel sorry for the ones that are on fixed income, because they'll suffer the most. And our future generations, they're going to have to pay for it. And caused by us old farts up in our country that permitted it to happen. That's who I blame for all we're having. That's all I have to say, Mayor. If
All right.
I'm in trouble, I'll take the blame.
No. Thank you very much, sir. I unfortunately was out of town for the Veterans Day celebration, something that I truly love, and I have been involved in it for many, many years. I did not serve this great country in the military, but I was a military dependent. As a matter of fact, the former chief, Ed Whiting, and I didn't know it at the time, but when he was at Norton Air Force Base, I was at Norton Air Force Base. He was an AP, Air Police, making sure that everybody did things right. I was a young son of a non-commissioned officer trying to get into the officer's swimming pool where the commissioned officer's daughters hung out. So we never had a personal conflict, but we were involved.
At night, after hours.
That's the only way I could get there. Anyway, I will tell you that not just those that actually enter combat, all those that serve this great country also have support at home. And you can imagine the pain of a combatant lying down at night, but knowing that that combatant halfway around the world was okay. But how about his wife handling things at home, putting the kids to bed, not knowing? Or it could be actually the opposite these days. It can be females in combat. Or we, during the Red Fridays campaign, if you will, we would send packages to Afghanistan, packages to combat zones in Iraq. And we got actually reached out to one time by a group of ladies in Afghanistan. And they said, thank you so much, Huddleston Crane, for sending the care packages over here. You can access a lot of different stuff because there's so many nice people in the United States that reach out, including off-road magazines and gun magazines and all that kind of male stuff, but not a lot of stuff for females. So I gave some money to my office manager and the girls, and they went on a shopping trip. And they bought boxes of stuff specifically for females. And we heard back from an all-female crew that crewed KC-135 refuelers flying over Afghanistan. So it's really amazing. So the veterans, the people that serve their country, the families that are a part of that, they all sacrifice. And we cannot forget. And it's something that we need to remember every day. Every day. So you don't just fly your flag twice a year on the 4th of July and Veterans Day. You fly your flag every day. You respect it. And you thank those men and women that actually serve this great country. And we have another veteran right over here on the other side. We're surrounded, thank heavens, by quality individuals that also serve their country. So I'm sorry I missed that, but I will tell you a key player in that celebration every year, a gal who works so hard to really make it special, is Michelle Kincaid. And Michelle is not here, but I want to give her a shout out. The challenge coins, she worked so hard to design the challenge coins, and it means so much to the men and women that are a part of that barbecue, as well as all the people that attend. So I want to thank all of you that are a part of it, and specifically Michelle, who works so hard every single year. She'll start planning next year's challenge coins probably tomorrow. Already has, no doubt. So thank you all. I'm sorry I missed it this year. I was out of the state, but I was here with you in thought. And so thank you all for handling that, as I knew you would. That is all I have this evening. Next up would be Planning Commission reports. Item number 5, we have a Planning Commissioner.
Good evening, Mayor Norm, members of the council. We have one item that will be coming to you probably in another month, maybe next year, I don't know, 3 weeks, okay. And it is something we do every 3 years, which is the amendment to the building codes, plumbing, electrical, all that. The California Building Standards Commission issues new ones every 3 years with updates. There doesn't appear to be too many real significant updates this time around. Some of the changes are actually more Mark's continuing amending and improving the flow of our local code. So when you see red, it's actually nothing new. It's just he's putting things in a better perspective for you. And that is what we had and all we had. So
Awesome.
have a good evening.
All right, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Have a happy Thanksgiving. Next up, department reports. We have any other department reports this evening? Seeing none, we'll move forward. City manager statement. City Manager Jones.
Thank you, Mayor. Although our very humble mayor was out of town, I want to point out he was a sponsor of the Veterans Day celebration. So he's very humble, but I think that should be mentioned, and we appreciate it.
Least I can do. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate that. Next up, city attorney statements. Jason, any statements this evening, sir?
No statements tonight, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Future agenda requests this evening, gentlemen. None? All right, then. We're going to move right into the consent calendar. Consent calendar items 10 through 16. Those items would be item number 10, the minutes of the November 1st, 2022 regularly scheduled meeting. Item number 11, the payment of bills, some approximately $400,000 worth. Item number 12, second reading ordinance amendment number 2022-05, streamline permitting of electric vehicle charging stations. This one's a peach.
Just won't go away.
Recommendation is a motion to approve and amend the City of Taft Municipal Code adopting an ordinance entitled an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Taft approving ordinance amendment number 2022-05, an amendment of Chapter 1 of Title 5 of the Taft Municipal Code regarding streamlined permitting of electric vehicle charging stations. Item 13, the approval of street closures for the Christmas parade on December 5th, 2022. The recommendation is a motion to adopt a resolution entitled Resolution of the City Council of the City of Taft authorizing the street closures for the 2022 Christmas parade. Item 14, accept the lowest responsive and responsible bid and award the 10th Street rehabilitation from A Street to the crosswalk at the bike pedestrian path project. Recommendation is a motion to accept the lowest responsive and responsible bid, award the project, and to approve a construction agreement with Birch Construction for the 10th Street rehabilitation from A Street to south side of the crosswalk at the bike pedestrian path project. STPL 5193-043, and to authorize the mayor to execute said agreement. Item 15 is the funding to the Taft Chamber of Commerce for the quarter of July 2022 to September of 2022. Recommendation is a motion to approve the 25% allocation of the transient occupancy tax to the Taft Chamber of Commerce for the quarter of July 2022 through September 2022. Lastly, item 16, approval of memorandum of agreements and employee compensation plans. Recommendation here is a motion to adopt a resolution entitled A Resolution of the City Council of the City of Taft approving the memorandum of agreements and employee compensation plans for the Taft Police Officers Association, the Taft Police Management Group, the Management Supervisory Confidential Compensation Plan, and the Department Head Benefits Compensation Plan. Does any member of the council wish to remove any of these items from the consent calendar? Hearing none at this time, I would entertain a motion to approve consent calendar items 10 through 16.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I had a couple of motions and a second. Did you get that, Madam Clerk?
I did.
I knew you did.
She's good.
I could tell. We have a motion and a second. May we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Cryer?
Yes.
Councilmember Bryant?
Yes.
Councilmember Evelyn?
Yes.
Councilmember Whiting?
Yes.
And Mayor Noor.
Yes, and that passes on a 5-0 vote. It is my distinct pleasure to inform you that this council is not going into closed session to consider any pending litigation. However, as we close this evening's meeting, we want to wish you all a very happy Thanksgiving, which, by the way, is my favorite holiday of all of them. So thank you all for being here. God bless. This meeting is adjourned.